When was the last time you thought about your prostate health? It's not the most comfortable topic, but let's be honest. Many men over 60 deal with issues they'd rather not talk about. Frequent trips to the bathroom, waking up at night, pressure or discomfort. The good news is, even something as simple as the food you eat can make a big difference in how you feel. Today, I'm going to tell you about 5 fermented foods that gently but effectively support prostate health. They're simple, tasty, and most importantly, they really work. Let's start with something easy, something your gut and prostate will both thank you for. I've worked with men over 60 for years, and one thing I hear again and again is the frustration that comes with nighttime bathroom trips. Pressure in the lower belly, or that nagging feeling that something's just not right down there. Often, it's tied to prostate swelling or inflammation, which can get worse when your gut health is out of balance. What many people don't realize is how deeply connected your digestion is to your prostate. The bacteria living in your gut help regulate inflammation throughout the body, including the bladder and prostate. And one of the easiest ways to support those helpful bacteria is with natural fermented foods. One of the best? Good old-fashioned sauerkraut when it's raw and unpasteurized. I remember a man named Harold, 74, from a small town in Ohio. Still drove his truck, still did his own yard work, but over the years he started noticing he was waking up more and more often to go to the bathroom at night. He described it as a fullness that never went away. He finally got checked out and was diagnosed with benign prostatic hyperplasia. Nothing dangerous, but definitely uncomfortable. His wife, who was always reading about natural remedies, had heard about fermented cabbage and decided to add some to their meals. At first, Harold wasn't thrilled. He said it reminded him of his Army days, but she added 2 spoonfuls next to his meatloaf every night for a few weeks. And sure enough, he came in the next month and told me, half surprised, that he'd been sleeping better, less pressure, less urgency, and he even felt lighter after eating. He hadn't changed his meds, just added a bit of cabbage. What often helps my older patients is keeping things simple and consistent. Sauerkraut works best when it's part of your regular routine, not something you try once. A good rule of thumb is to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut to your lunch or dinner at least 3 times a week. Look for it in the refrigerated section of the store, not the shelf-stable kind in cans or jars. It should say live cultures or unpasteurized right on the label. That's how you know the good bacteria are still active and helpful. You don't have to overhaul your whole diet. You don't need to learn a new recipe or start counting anything. Just 1 scoop of something crunchy and sour on the side of your plate can make a real difference. Small changes like this may not look dramatic, but over time, they add up to real comfort, better sleep, and more confidence in your body. You've earned that peace of mind, and sometimes it starts with something as simple as a forkful of cabbage. Here's one more thing I often recommend, and it might already be in your fridge. As we get older, our bodies naturally go through changes that can feel frustrating, especially when it comes to hormones like testosterone. You may notice lower energy, changes in mood, or more frequent nighttime bathroom visits. These are common signs of hormonal imbalance and inflammation, both of which are tied closely to aging. But what many don't realize is that part of this can be supported through the gut, and fermented dairy, like kefir, plays a gentle but powerful role in that. Kefir contains billions of live probiotics along with B vitamins and healthy acids that help reduce inflammation and support hormone production in a very natural way. It's easy to digest, and your body knows what to do with it. A man I worked with recently, Frank, he's 68 and lives in western Pennsylvania, had just retired after 40 years in logistics. He told me, "I thought I'd feel free after retiring, but I mostly just feel tired." He was also waking up 2 or 3 times a night to use the bathroom, and that started making him anxious. His checkups didn't show anything dangerous, but his body was clearly under stress. We talked about his routine, and he mentioned that he skipped breakfast and snacked late at night. I suggested trying a glass of plain kefir in the evenings, maybe around 7 or 8 p.m., instead of a late snack. 2 weeks later, he called to say he was shocked. He had slept through the night twice that week for the first time in months. "I didn't expect it to work," he laughed, "but I actually feel sharper in the morning now." I've seen the same effect in many older men: better sleep, calmer digestion, and a noticeable lift in mood just from adding this one habit. One of the simplest ways to support your hormone balance and overall health is to drink one small glass of kefir a day, preferably plain, unsweetened, and with live cultures. It works well in the morning with a piece of fruit or in the evening about an hour before bed. If you want to boost it further, try stirring in a small spoonful of ground flaxseed. It's an easy habit to build, especially once you start feeling the results. You don't have to overhaul your life to feel better. A small change, like a glass of kefir a day, is like watering a dry plant. At first it seems too simple, but give it time, and you might be surprised at how much better your body responds. You deserve to feel strong, rested, and clear-minded. This is one gentle step in that direction, another one that surprises many people, but it's worth a second look. When it comes to aging and prostate health, circulation plays a bigger role than most folks think. As we get older, blood flow can slow down, especially in the pelvic area, and that affects everything from urination to energy levels to hormonal balance. At the same time, many men experience a gradual drop in testosterone, which can leave you feeling more sluggish, less motivated, and more prone to discomfort in the lower abdomen. That's why foods that support blood vessels and hormone function can be so helpful. One of the most interesting and often overlooked options is a traditional Japanese food called natto. It's made from fermented soybeans and is rich in something called nattokinase, which supports healthy blood circulation, and vitamin K2, which helps prevent calcium buildup in the wrong places, like your arteries. I remember working with Bill, a 72-year-old retired engineer from Southern California. He was in good shape, walked daily, but had been struggling with a feeling of fullness after urinating and waking up several times each night. His doctor ruled out anything serious, but his symptoms didn't go away. Bill's son had recently traveled to Japan and brought back a small container of natto, which has a sticky texture and strong smell, not exactly appealing at first glance. Bill was skeptical, and I don't blame him, but he gave it a try. He started eating a small spoonful twice a week, mixing it with a bit of mustard and green onions to make it more palatable. After a few weeks, he noticed he was waking up less during the night. He also told me, "I don't know if it's in my head, but I've got more pep in the morning." We checked in a month later, and sure enough, he looked more rested, and his sense of control had come back. Not bad for a food he almost refused to try. What often helps is easing into fermented soy in a way that fits your taste. If natto's texture or smell is too much, don't force it. You can get similar benefits from miso soup or tempeh, a firmer fermented soy cake that's easier to prepare. The key is not to overheat it because high temperatures kill the helpful enzymes. Aim to include a fermented soy product once or twice a week, served warm or room temperature. That's enough to give your body the compounds it needs to support better flow and balance. Trying something new, especially something that seems unusual, takes a little courage, but your body knows how to use these foods. Sometimes the things that seem foreign at first can become quiet allies in the background, doing the work so you can feel more like yourself again. You're allowed to experiment. You're allowed to feel better. And yes, you're allowed to say, "That actually worked for me." One more gentle habit that works quietly behind the scenes. When I talk with older men about prostate health, we always end up discussing inflammation. It's a word you've probably heard before, but in the body, it simply means tension and stress at the cellular level. And the truth is, your immune system and your gut health are tightly linked, and both play a role in how your prostate feels and functions. As we age, our natural immune defense weakens, and the balance of good bacteria in our gut can shift in the wrong direction, especially after antibiotic or long-term medication use. That imbalance affects digestion, sleep, even energy. Oh, and yes, it affects your prostate too. That's where live culture yogurt can really help. Not the sugary kind, but the simple plain kind with active probiotics that restore the gut and support the immune system. A man I know well, Dennis, 70, from Michigan, came to me after recovering from a stubborn chest infection. He'd taken 2 rounds of antibiotics and felt better, but a few weeks later he started noticing bloating, occasional cramping, and what he called a weird heaviness down low. He was nervous something serious was going on, but tests didn't show anything alarming. I asked him about his diet, and it turned out he'd stopped eating breakfast altogether and relied mostly on coffee and toast during the day. I gently suggested trying a small bowl of plain Greek yogurt every morning, just a few spoonfuls to start, with a handful of blueberries or walnuts. He agreed to try it, and when I saw him 3 weeks later, he smiled before even sitting down. He said the bloating had eased, his belly felt more settled, and for the first time in months, he wasn't waking up with a tight gut. Dennis stuck with it and even started making his own yogurt later on. He told me it was the first time he felt like he was doing something small but real for his body. What often helps is starting simple. Choose a plain yogurt that says live cultures or active probiotics on the label. Avoid the sweetened ones. Your gut bacteria don't need the sugar. Try it in the morning or early afternoon, maybe with a sprinkle of ground flaxseed, a few almonds, or a small scoop of oats. It's not about calories or dieting. It's about feeding your internal system what it's quietly asking for. You don't need to do everything perfectly. You don't need to chase youth. What you can do is give your body quiet, steady support, the kind that builds trust from the inside. A spoonful a day may not look like much, but inside, it's a message. I care. I'm still in this. And you deserve to feel that care from yourself most of all. Let me share one more easy shift that can quietly help your body feel less burdened. As we age, our bodies tend to hold on to more tension, more fluid, more toxins we don't realize are there. For men especially, the pelvic area becomes a place where blood flow slows, pressure builds, and the prostate can become more sensitive. That's why gentle detoxification, not in the cleanse sense you hear in trendy magazines, but through regular food that supports your body's natural rhythms, is so valuable. Fermented vegetables, particularly root vegetables like beets, carrots, or radishes, offer just that. They help stimulate digestion, reduce bloating, support circulation, and lower low-grade inflammation that can press on the bladder or prostate. One example that stuck with me is Robert, a 76-year-old from Texas. A retired mechanic, he told me, I never had the cleanest habits, too much barbecue, not enough walking, and he admitted he didn't think much about his prostate until he started feeling discomfort every time he went to the bathroom. His doctor didn't find anything urgent, but warned him to ease the pressure on his system or risk long-term problems. We looked at his routine, and it was mostly heavy meat-based meals with little fiber or variety. I suggested he try adding a few spoonfuls of fermented beets to his lunch, not pickled in vinegar, but naturally fermented in salt brine. At first he thought it was too fancy, but once his daughter started buying them from a local farmer's market, he gave it a shot. After 2 weeks, he said his digestion felt smoother and the pressure while urinating had noticeably eased. More than that, he told me he just felt lighter. The small change made him feel more in control, without having to give up everything he loved. What often helps is finding small additions that work with your habits, not against them. Fermented root vegetables are easy to make at home with just sliced beets or carrots, salt, and water, or you can buy them in the refrigerated section of a health store. Look for labels that say raw, unpasteurized, or live cultures. Aim for 2 tablespoons a day as a side dish or part of your plate, especially with heavier meals like meat or potatoes. Your body wants to keep working well. It just needs a little less clutter, a little more help. Adding foods like this is like opening a window. It lets fresh air in without tearing down the whole wall. And even if it's just 1 spoonful at a time, that's often where healing begins. Quiet, slow, and lasting. If even one of these foods caught your interest, that's already a great first step. Let us know in the comments which one you've tried before and which you're willing to try in the coming days. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. We talk here about small steps that make life better. And remember, you're not alone. The prostate isn't a taboo. It's a part of your health. Taking care of yourself isn't weakness, it's strength. Life keeps going, especially when you reach out and take it by the hand.